The Wildcat Sports Club CNY Brewfest is coming up January 31st and February 1st at the New York State Fairgrounds. Taste your way through unlimited samples from more than 100 breweries. Now featuring hard ciders, seltzers, craft cocktails, and mocktails too. Grab your tickets now at cnybrewfest.com.
Yo, this is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Monday. It's 11 o'clock, so you know what time it is. The Etan and Devo Show. We appreciate everybody tuning in. E, what's going on, man? How was your weekend?
No, it was good. It was good. Just busy, you know what I mean, with the girls' volleyball tournaments and, you know, trying to watch a little bit of the Commanders and Philly game while I'm at the tournament with some of the other dads. It was good.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about the result of the Commanders game. I think they had an unbelievable run. They just ran into a Philly team who, with Jalen Hurts and Barkley, they're on a mission, man. I mean, it seemed close for a while, and then I look at the score, and then I saw 55. I'm like, dang, what the?
I know, real quick, real quick. And I still don't understand why the Giants didn't keep Saquon Barkley. Like, what? I still don't understand that. Giants fans, y'all gonna have to explain that to me. Why y'all didn't do everything in your power to keep Saquon Barkley? I'd like to hear, you know, Giants fans' explanation on that one.
Yeah, and it's funny how it works. Sometimes, like, you may not be having a great season, or, you know, up to the expectations of what the Giants may have thought, and then you go to Philly and it's just like a rebirth, right? Like, breaking the all-time single season rushing yard record, and yeah, he's unbelievable catching the ball at the backfield, and he's just like a bulldog just running through people. And now he's on his way to the Super Bowl.
On his way to the Super Bowl, game changer. You know what I mean? He's the X factor now. So man, that's how it works.
And we got to give him this. His quarterback was Daniel Jones, and now his quarterback is Jalen Hurts. So there is a difference. There is a difference. It's a difference, yeah, absolutely. So, E, let's talk about the weekend that Cuse had. Obviously, not the results that they wanted, going 0-2, but they're two good teams. You know, on the road at Clemson, and then back home against Pittsburgh. So we'll start with Clemson. You know, obviously Clemson is one of the top teams in the ACC. They're a big team. They got, you know, Shefflin, they got Lockett, and then they got a great guard, an all ACC guard in Chase Hunter. You know, for me, first half, it couldn't guard anyone. It was just J.J. Starling who got off hot, started early, and kept it going throughout the game. First half was just abysmal defensively, and then second half they picked it up. They actually outscored Clemson in the second half, but you know, when you're trailing by that much and trying to get back into the game, it's going to be tough, especially on the road. Look, J.J. Starling's been playing great, but a guy that we've been talking about, on the phone and off air is Eddie Lampkin. You know, I just want to give Eddie Lampkin his flowers real quick because, you know, all the criticism that he has been getting through this season. I mean, I think 6 of the last 7 games, or it might be more. I got to go back and check. He's had a double-double, you know, and I think he just missed it against Clemson. I think he had 9 rebounds, but he had 14 points. Honestly, we were talking about last show, what can Syracuse do offensively, you know, when it's not J.J. Starling? What guards can, you know, we put on the ball to make something happen? We talked about Kyle Cuff. Obviously Chris Bell is not doing what he's expected to do, but honestly, I'm throwing the ball to Eddie Lampkin and just giving him more touches, and he has to be more aggressive at the rim. I want him to get more shot attempts, and even if he's not shooting the ball, he's a really good decision maker, like just passing the ball out of the post. When he's not turning the ball over and he's looking for teammates on the perimeter or cutters, and you see, you know, a bunch of behind the back passes this year, he's just a good decision maker out of the post. And if you don't have another guard besides JJ, I'm throwing the ball early to Eddie Lampkin and letting him make a play, be aggressive at the rim, and really just playing through that.
I mean, well, I can't agree with you more. You know, I think that he we need to go inside out. I think that's really, you know, where our bread and butter is. And his willingness as a passer, like you said, I mean, there was maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. He got the ball in the post, and I think they collapsed on him, and he just kind of He chested it, and then he just kicked it out to Chris Bell. Chris Bell's wide open for a three. You know, those kind of plays are really invaluable. You don't see them a whole lot in college basketball. That's a little bit more in the professional area of a big man really hitting cutters, hitting somebody in the open spot. You know, because usually, to be honest with you, big men don't get that much love. So when you do get the ball, you want to try to score. You know what I mean? You want to try to do something. But he is a willing passer. And, I mean, come on, you got to give it up to him. He had 23 rebounds. And for all
versus Pittsburgh, yeah.
For all the criticism that he receives, and he's not the most athletic player in college basketball, right? Is that fair to say? Not the most athletic, but he gets it done. He's moving into the right spots. I said it earlier this morning. He is who big men coaches will point to in talking to the big men about how you can rebound the ball without being athletic. You don't have to jump out the gym. You don't have to, be an incredible athlete, but you move into the right position. You do your work early, and the ball should come right down to you. That is literally Eddie Lampkin in a nutshell. You know what I mean? He does his work early at 23 rebounds. That's up there. You know what I mean? But I did think it was interesting that even in the game where he had 23 rebounds, and I flipped games. I went to, the Pitt game. We was talking about Clemson. I went to the Pitt game. And even though he had 23 rebounds, one of the main points of emphasis after the game, Coach Autry was saying he wasn't happy with some of the rebounding down the stretch. And he was pointing to a few other guys who missed a rebound here and missed a rebound there. And I thought that was interesting. I mean, it's if Eddie Lampkin is going to get 23 rebounds by himself, then everybody else has to be able to rebound the ball and do what they need to do so that coach does not say that. You know what I mean? We could be an incredible rebounding team if Eddie, rebounds. That you don't have to have 20 plus every game, but the way that he's been rebounding, plus everybody else making sure that they rebound, that's something serious.
So, I'm gonna give you the rebounding totals from some of the guys, and this is the Pittsburgh game. Obviously, Eddie Lampkin, 23 rebounds. He had 8 offensive rebounds, 15 defensive. The next highest rebound total was from the guard spot. Lucas Taylor had 7. J.J. Starling had 4. Our next big, who supposedly you would think would get a higher rebounding total than the guards, was 2. With Jair Davis, Peter. It was Peter. Pistol Pete had 5. Jair Davis had 2. Chris Bell played 24 minutes. He had 0 rebounds. Elijah Moore, 16. He had 1 rebound. But overall, as a team, they had 48 rebounds, 20 offensive rebounds, 28 defensive rebounds. They out-rebounded Pittsburgh, who is a good rebounding team and a physical team down there in the paint, by 17 rebounds. For me, when you have out-rebounded team by that amount, you have to be able to convert on those second chance opportunities. So all it is telling me is you got those offensive rebounds, but you weren't able to really do anything with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, and this is, sometimes I would rather, if I did have one criticism of Eddie Lampkin, sometimes I would rather him get the rebound and go back up himself. I'm like, you earned this rebound. You earned this 2 points. Don't kick it back out and you right underneath the goal. Go back up there. You know what I mean? That's that, and that I see that a little bit more in college ball now, where you'll see a big man like right there at the basket, but he wants to kick. That I'm not a fan of. I'm 100% am not. You got 2 feet in the paint. You know what I mean? Go up. That's your shot. But as far as, if he's waiting for the double team and kicking it out, guys got to knock down shots. You know what I mean? He gets the rebound or something like that, guys. He has to have some help. Now, let me ask you this. This is one thing I did notice. And I heard a lot of criticism about it, as far as coach's decision to sit JJ for however many minutes, the last 11 minutes, I think he didn't play against Pitt. I don't know how many he played that first half. But he had those 2 fouls early. And you don't want him to get the 3rd foul in the first half, because then that changes your whole dynamic. And we are going so much and relying on him to do so much. You kind of want to save him. So that's kind of that's a tough call to make. Do you play him and then he gets that 3rd foul and everybody's like, oh, see, why'd you leave him in there? It's too risky. But then you know what I mean? So it would change. I don't have any issue with coach sitting him that much in the first half to kind of really save him. What do you think about that?
So I don't have an issue either. For me, I'm not sitting him as long just because if he's not out there, and we talked about it, who else is doing anything? If Eddie Lampkin's out there, then you got to try to get the ball to Eddie Lampkin, and offensively he has to be a little bit more aggressive. But JJ needs to be out there. That's the best player on the team, and even when he is doing well, it's still hard for this team to win games. Going back to Clemson, I mean, he had, I think, 17 points in the first half. No one else was able to get going and do anything. So
you think he needs to be out there even with 2 fouls in the first half?
It depends on. I mean, I would sit him, but I'm not sitting him that long. I'm letting him go back in. It depends on the situation of the game. Like we were in the game. Syracuse was in the game, and so at that point, you probably can sit him. Now, if the game starts to get out of hand, you got to put him back in the game. Just to, you don't want to let the game get out of hand like that. But yes, I mean, and again, it's a lose-lose situation for a coach, right? If he sits him for a long time, they're talking about, hey, why did you sit your best player? But if he puts him back in and he gets that third foul, hey, why'd you put him back in? It was a stupid move. You know what I mean? So it's a lose-lose, and it's just a feel. Like where is the team at? How are they playing? What's the score? So I mean, if that situation, it's probably the right thing to do is sit him out.
You see, against Pitt, that on Saturday, there was a close game. We were going back and forth.
Yeah.
It wasn't getting out of hand. So that's what I was saying. A lot of the criticism that I was seeing from fans was that they sat him too long. I'm just like that. What do you want him to do? To gamble that the game's not out of reach, saying the game's not out of hand, the guys are doing well. You would think that it would have been for him to sit that long of an extended period of time. But in this situation, I'm like, I don't know if I'd risk him getting that third foul. You know what I mean? He's too invaluable to the team. He's the main focal point of the offense. You don't want him to get that third foul that early. That's, just talking about as that goes in particular, just as the feedback was coming in from some of the Syracuse fans.
At this point, Red really can't do much right as far as from a fan standpoint, right? Like anything he does is going to be criticized. They're not really going to give him a lot of credit if he does something right. They're nitpicking, and they're trying to see, what can they criticize about him.
But see, I don't mind being critical, you know what I mean, as long as it's logical. And you could, sometimes you see somebody think, oh, he's terrible. I was like, that's not a criticism. Like, there's nothing wrong with critiquing a coach. We critique Coach Boeheim all the time. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with critiquing a coach. I still, to this day, and I was watching St. John's play. Who was they just playing? Was it Who did they just beat? I don't know. I don't remember who it was. I was watching Kadari Richmond. Every single time I see Kadari, I'm like, I wish we would have played him more when he was here. I will always say that.
Man.
I don't care who disagrees with me with that. I will always say that Kadari should have played more when he was here, and we should have kept him here. And I thought that he was a good point guard and would have been great here. That's nothing against anybody else. I just think that he was the best point guard. So that's an actual critique.
I agree.
Okay, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean you have to be like, oh, coach is terrible, the coach is horrible, he sucks. And I'm like, come on, that's not a critique. You're an actual critique,
And for going back to Kadari, that was more like an attitude thing. Just for me, kind of knowing a little bit more inside on it. That was more like an attitude and how he acted toward coach. And then coach, at the stage that he was in his coaching career, he just didn't want to deal with that, right? So he's like, look, the attitude you have or what, and I understand that, but at the same point, look, man, you sometimes you got to figure it out, dude, with my man. Just think about Kadari at the 1, JJ at the 2 right now, and how much pressure it takes off JJ. I mean, because Kadari, for real, like, he can score the ball, but he does want to give it up. But again, he got $1 million to go to St. John's. I'm going to St. John's, too.
Yes. And I agree with that. But before he went to St. John's, before that, I thought that he should have been playing a lot more. But I know we got to go to a break for a little while. But it's one of those things when you see a former Syracuse player playing with somebody else, and you know that what he could have done here. Sometimes that is a little bit frustrating. And like you said, he would have been perfect with JJ right now because he takes that pressure off of him. He doesn't have to run the show. He doesn't have to do any of that. He just can focus. But one more thing before we go to break. I think that Carlos should be a little bit more aggressive offensively as far as looking for his shot. He's a great distributor, but I kind of want him to look for his a little bit more. Doesn't mean he have to go crazy, but I think that he could do a little bit more offensively. What do you think about that?
Has to be, because if you're on the floor and you're just trying to pass the ball, everybody's just going to drop back, and now the driving lanes for everyone, it's more congested. You have to be able to be a threat shooting the basketball. If they close out, you have to be a threat getting into the paint and then creating from there. 100% agree with you. 100%. Let's go to break real quick, E, and then when we come back, we'll play a clip from the press conference after the Pittsburgh game with Coach Red, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the weekend in Syracuse. Be right back.
Syracuse basketball head coach Adrian Ott.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to throw that in there real quick because I'm watching Carlos and I'm like, man, shoot, do something. You know what I mean? I love his passing. His passing is great. The way he runs the team, the way he distributes everything like that. Shoot, I would love to play with him. You know what I mean? But you have to keep them honest. They can't just sink all the way off you, thinking that you're never going to try to score. Like, you got to be able to keep them honest.
If you're going to be like that, like he is right now, you got to have like JJ, you got to have Chris, you got to have like Lucas. All those guys have to be able to be threats with the ball, and they're not.
Yeah, like I said, I would have loved playing with him. You know what I mean? So I'm not dissing him at all or anything like that. He just got to shoot a little bit. Just a little bit.
He would have loved be playing with you because he wouldn't have had to worry about scoring the ball. He'd have those wings and those bigs that could do stuff with it, and now it's just totally different.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some more man between Davis. Oh, I'm just reading this chat real quick.
What are they talking about?
They're just kind of going back and forth with each other. Or they're talking about they'd want to see a little bit more Davis and Lampkin in the paint. You know what? And Davis, Jair, like, shows that he's capable, and then he'll have a game where he just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's like his rhythm is off. I like them in the paint as well. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like the little high-low thing that they have. I like when he flashes up to the top of the key and then kind of does his thing. You know, I like it too. It's just they got to be on a. I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We'll play Red's clip. Red's been getting a lot of criticism with his press conferences after the game, not really, just being real vague, I guess they said.
Well, what do they want him to say? That's what I'm saying.
I know.
What are they looking for Red to say during the press conference?
Yeah,
no,
they just want it.
I'm curious about that. Like, what do they want to hear from Red during the press conference? Like, what is it that they specifically are looking for?
I don't know, more in-depth, detailed, like specific, you know what I mean?
I guess, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing he could really say. That's what some of the chat said. No matter what he says, it doesn't matter.
I hear you.
That's what I'm just reading the chat. This is what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just tough, man. Because now how the game is played now, it's like you're not really throwing it in to anyone. You're not throwing it down low to a big like Eddie Lampkin, and now it's kind of like that's what we have to do if JJ's not going because no one else is creating anything.
Yeah. What did Chris end up with
Against Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
He had 12, I think. He played 24 minutes. He had 12 points. He had 4 threes, 4 for 11 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3. 0 rebounds, though. Like it's 0, 0, 0, 2 turnovers, 0, 0. Like no blocks, no steals, no rebounds, no assists. And again, like if this makeup of the team was different and you could just be a guy who could go in there and shoot it, you'd be good. But like for this team, you have to do more. Like you have to do more, man. You can't go in there and not rebound the basketball at 6'7".
Yeah.
Even though they got 48 rebounds, they had, you know what I mean? They had 48 rebounds, but maybe some of those rebounds that they didn't get were on his side.
ESPN
Jordan, you gonna play that clip?
7 and 100.1. Watch live on
I'm ready for whenever you want.
QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to get into this clip real quick of a Red press conference after the Pittsburgh game.
When it came down to it, we didn't make the plays that needed to be made, and that was on the defensive end. Bottom line, we didn't get the rebounds. You know, we got them to miss a couple. We didn't get the rebounds that we need to get. And it was very frustrating because it's something that we work on a lot. Spend a lot of time doing it, and then, to lose games, because of that, that's very frustrating.
Yeah, give me what's your take, E?
I mean, I don't know if I didn't think our defense was necessarily bad down the stretch. I thought that there was a few times when we were just like a hair late. So you remember when, who was it, Zach Alston? When he drained the three?
Austin, yep, Zach Austin.
Right, so Jack Austin drained his three from the top of the key. And I think it was just a little bit of late on the rotation. We were there. Man, I gotta remember the man's name. But he was just a little bit late over the rotation, and he drained it. I don't think it was necessarily a missed assignment. It just seemed like sometimes you got to give credit to Pitt. Like they played well, they executed well. They scored down the stretch. They reversed the ball. You know what I mean? They hit the open person. I don't know. I don't think that's one. There are games where our rotations don't seem like they're clicking, where it seems like we're a step slow, where it seems like we don't have the effort. I don't think that this is one of those games. And this is just for me watching. I thought that we played well. I thought Pitt just played better. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and I think, look, you do got to give credit to Pittsburgh. Their point guard, Jalen Lowe, one of the best point guards in the ACC. I mean, he's an NBA prospect for a reason. I think he's projected second round right now as a sophomore. But when you have players like that and you're on the road and you need a bucket and it's really no set, it's just Coach Capel saying, Jalen, make a play happen. And that's what he did. Like, he was able to get into the paint 2 feet. And a thing about Jalen Lowe is he's not a huge guy, right? Not a big physical presence, but man, he has that Jalen Brunson footwork. And I'm not saying as good as Jalen Brunson, but when you have that type of footwork as a guard, a lot of the times, you go into the paint and you don't have the initial shot, but your footwork keeps the play alive. Whether it's reverse pivot over there, reverse pivot, pump, body, whatever, kick, whatever it is. On multiple occasions, Jalen Lowe just got the ball, either drove by or got into the paint and kept the play alive with his feet, whether it was a finish or a kick out. And that's hard to do when you have a guy like that and have to guard him one-on-one every single time, because no matter who you have on him, he's getting into the lane, and now the defense goes like this. They collapse, and you talked about Zach Austin getting those 2-3. He had two clutch three-pointers. One was the transition top of the key, and the other one was the corner, or it might have been a wing kick, and he knocked it down. But again, and I'm playing devil's advocate now for Syracuse. If you're Syracuse, when Jalen Lowe has the ball, you have to know that, all right, we have to be able to pack it in. All right. And then you still got to know where the shooters are, because Jalen Lowe's a guard who's capable of getting his own shot and then creating for his others. So who are the shooters on the floor? I know Zach Austin's a really good shooter. I know Leggett can knock it down. It's just about, I think defensively, they didn't play bad. All year, Syracuse hasn't been great defensively at all. That's you know what I mean? That's not something that, we haven't talked about. But you have to know the rotations. You have to know the scouting report. Like, know your personnel, right? Know who the shooters are. Know where they're at on the court. So even now, you could be a step late, but now you got a shade to this guy a little bit more. So if it is a kick, now you're there. You know what I mean? If Jalen Lowe has the ball, I got to come into where I'm helping a little bit more. Right, and that's just communication defensively. And I think you could be in position, but now if you're not communicating out of the rotations and just talking to each other, there's going to be a missed assignment. And that's what happened against Pittsburgh. That's what happened against the whole game against Clemson. It's just, look, the effort is there and the energy is there at times defensively. And now it gets to the point where it's just like little things, like you talk about, just like knowing your personnel, the rotations, communicating. And Syracuse just hasn't been consistent with that all year, honestly.
Yeah, and I do hear you, and I understand what you're saying on that, but I didn't think the rotations. I don't think they have missed assignments. I think they just knocked down their shots. You know, I mean, Olsen, you have to give him credit. You knocked down a transition three. You have to knock down. I mean, those are tough shots. You know, sometimes
they're not trying to hear that. They're not trying to hear that.
I hear you, but I don't think it was. I don't think it's a situation of missed assignments and poor effort and all that. They were there. They just hit the shot. Sometimes that's the way that it works. Sometimes they hit their shots. You know what I mean? And it's. I know people want to point the blame somewhere and say, okay, we lost because of this, or we lost because of this. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It's just they played better than us. You know what I mean? We didn't do anything wrong. They just knocked down their shots. But I know you before, and I want to ask you this about. We mentioned it during the break that Coach Red is getting a little bit of criticism for some of his press conferences, and the fans want him to be a little bit more specific, a little bit more, detailed on what. And I don't know what is it that they want him to say. That's what
I mean, I guess when you're losing a lot of games, they want you to break it down, be specific and detailed, and they want to know, hey, what's the fix right now? How can we do? But again, and you know as well as anybody, just from playing at Cuse and playing that long in the NBA, basketball is a simple game, so it's not like a huge fix. It's not. So like when he goes into the press conference and people are expecting to have this whole equation to it's not that. You know what I mean? And he's not Coach Boeheim, so he's not going to speak how Coach Boeheim spoke. Right? He's Red Autry. So you got to get used to how he's speaking to you. And a lot of times he's just like, hey, this is it. We got to rebound more, or we didn't rebound enough, or we didn't make shots. And it's not some big math equation that the fans are expecting to hear. So I think that's why they're, I don't know, giving him criticism. It's really vague what he's saying, but at the end of the day, that's just what it is. Those are the things that they got to do better or get better at.
Well, is it that they want him to name of the player that's not playing well, or what? For one, I'm not a big fan when coaches do that. I'm really not. I think there's certain things. Now, saying to the player or saying in the locker room, I don't want you to chastise a player to the media and to the fans. I don't think you need to do that. But is that what they're looking for, or what is it?
You can't do that. You're 100%. You can't name a player because now you're losing your locker room. It's regardless of what the fans and the media want to hear. I'm not going to lose my locker room over that, over saying a guy's name and specifically pointing him out. I mean, I don't think. All right, listen, Coach Boeheim, he might have done that over the years, but I can't remember him doing that a lot over the years. If anything, he's going to come to you in practice or, sometime before the game, whatever, and have that conversation with you. But I think just with any program, that's for the locker room to talk about. Like that's in-house. You don't say anyone's name, whether it's a player or a coach, into the media, because now, and we're the media, so but we're not doing that. We're a different kind of media. We're not taking what coach says and then running with it. Because you could say one thing about a guy and then the media takes it and it's a whole story about this one player, about how he hasn't been doing this the whole year, and now they're nitpicking and doing this. And say what you want. These players read that or they hear about it, and it affects them. Yeah, it affects them, and I don't know if the fans really realize it. That affects players when you say negative stuff about them, regardless of, hey, they got to have thick skin. It's a part of it. And yes, it is. I understand that. but it's still going to affect them as a human being. Like you're pointing out their flaws. Like that's like if I went into your job every day, you're a tech or a carpenter. Hey, this line is off, that measurement's off. That wasn't your greatest day of putting down carpet. You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
So everybody, you say it to the whole. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're wanting them to do. You're wanting that the player's boss, who is the coach, to criticize them in front of everybody. I don't think there's any need to do that. Like me personally, I don't need. If those are the specifics that fans are looking for, I hope that Coach Autry does not do that. I hope he ignores the fans with that. You know what I mean? If you say that we need to rebound better as a collective team, even in a game where you see that Eddie Lampkin had 23 rebounds, but he says, no, we as a collective, as a whole, need to rebound better. I'm fine with that answer. You know what I mean? I mean, if he says, well, we need to be able to knock down some shots. You know, we've been shooting this position, this percentage, everything. He doesn't have to go down the list and say this player does this and this player. I don't need that. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's what the fans are looking for. I thought his press conferences, he's been answering the questions, pretty honestly and pretty forthright, to be honest with you. Maybe even too much. Sometimes I think the coaches have to talk too much to the press.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, guys, some real particulars here. You know what I mean? That's for the coaches. I know the press wants to be able to have something to write and something like that, but yeah, I don't know.
No, for the most part, I think he's taken all the accountability and put it on himself. For this season, he hasn't really called out any players, or it's been about the team. I think he's taken a lot of the heat and put it on himself, and I guess rightfully so. He's the head coach. Like you're the guy, you're the leader of the team. When you're doing these press conferences, when you're doing these ACC calls, you're the one on them. You know what I mean? So you're the leader of the group, and he's standing up and fighting for his group. It hasn't been the best season. We know that, but when they say this team is just trash, I don't think they're trash. I think there's been, if you break it down game by game, because I watch the games. I know you watch the games. Like these fans watch the game, but then we go back and really see it and see the plays where we could have did better, and it's just like little things, each and every, going back to the beginning of the season, like Texas Tech, free throws, turnovers, right? Maryland, who else? Tennessee, Louisville. Yes, those games, they got blown out, right? Those were 20-plus losses, right? Point losses. So those are the games that you could be like, all right, they were terrible. Like a lot of the effort and energy wasn't there. But these other games, you're talking about Pittsburgh, and even really Clemson, even though they lost by 12, that second half was totally different than the first half, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this team is just, man, they're a wing guy away. If Chris Bell could do this, you know what I mean? If defensively they're locked in a little bit more, and we could say all the ifs, ands, and buts in the worlds, right? For any team, and it'd be different for any team. But I'm not saying this team is just straight garbage. You can't say, because how I'm looking at it is like these little things are correctable. It's just about, are they going to be able to do it? And we're getting to the latter part of the season where we could talk about this all we want. It's not going to matter, and the people are going to say they're garbage because the record is what it is. But if I'm really looking at it and breaking it down, like they're not so far away. It's just this guy has to do a little bit more of that. This guy a little bit more of that. Defensively come together. I don't know. They might be killing me in the chat right now. I don't know. But
it might be. I know we have to go to break. When we come back, I want to ask you about Coach Hurley in UConn and some of his antics. I'll say some of his antics. So let's save that. Take us to break, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back.
Absolutely, we got a good video.
Cody Mack.
Personally, not the biggest fan
sorry,
of.
guys.
Can you afford him?
You are.
That should almost be secondary. Does he want to be here?
I think Coach,
is
what
he
he's
getting
saying,
enough
guys,
from the team that he wants to stay? The first thing should be, can we afford him? If the very
there we go.
Say it again, Paul. You went off.
I think we lost him.
But he's right. They break down at the worst possible time. I agree with that. But Paulie, finish, Paulie.
That's all they're saying. Like, they give up offensive rebounds when they when they got a chance to pull ahead. Lucas Taylor lost Shrewsbury twice at the end of the Notre Dame game. You know, it's always at the most crucial times, and I think that's what he's saying about the rebounding is we give up rebounds when we need them most.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I can't fight that.
Yeah, Zach Austin, like if he doesn't hit that three, if he misses that three, they come down and score. Now it's a totally different game. Like when he hit that corner three, and then when he hit the top of the key three, I mean, those were backbreakers. But like you said, those situations, like now you really got to lock in even more, you know, because you could be right there every time. But if you don't get stops in those clutch situations, you're going to be at where you're at right now.
Yeah, looking at trying not to miss the ACC tournament, which is still crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the ACC is not great, so.
Yes, that's what we're in right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm trying to look at the standings. Where they at? Let me look at the standings real quick. Yeah, they are. So 1, 2, 3. They're four. I guess if they drop 4 spots, they're 4 spots out of the bottom. So they're 3 and 6. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech are 3 and 6. I mean, that could change quick. North Carolina State's 2 and 6. Yeah, they could go to the bottom quick. Yeah. Notre Dame's 3 and 5. But then you win 2 games, and now you hop up all the way to dang near right under SMU.
Yeah.
This West Coast trip going to be tough for them. I tell you that. They got to win. You want to win both, but Sanford's pretty good too.
The fact that they have a West Coast trip, though, like this is the league. That is so crazy to me. The West Coast trip in college. And
Florida State went and lost both, and they were playing really good. Like, they lost to Cal, and then they lost to Stanford.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still tripping off the West Coast trip. If this is a regular, you know what I mean, conference.
I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. All right, so I'm looking at the Big East Conference, and he said he's the best coach in college basketball, but he's 4th in the conference. They're 4th. they're 4th in the conference behind Creighton, St. John's, and Marquette. Well, okay, St. John's I didn't know they were playing that well, man.
You're hoping. That's what I was saying when I was watching Kadari. I was like, oh, man.
They got a good payroll over there.
Yeah, they do. Well, Pitino's going to make it happen, dude. They're 17 and 3.
Yeah, they've been hooping.
And they're not even, they're 20th right now. Okay, they have been hooping.
No, they hooping. They hooping.
And then they're going to beat Georgetown. They'll beat Providence, and they got a big one against Marquette and UConn. They'll end up being in the tournament for sure, easily.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And Kadari's averaging 11 and 5.
Mannion and Capani. I'm Jackie. Yes, Syracuse, right here at 224 Harrison Street, Suite 306. Yes, MedicaidLaw.net. You're welcome.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Diebendorf.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. We got one more segment for you guys. We're on 11 to 12. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Now, this is something that we talked about off air. Coach Bob Hurley.
Yeah, I want to get your take on this because I don't know if everybody saw, but in the game last Tuesday night, it was a close game against Butler, and Hurley was seen screaming at referee Nathan Farrell. I have it right here. And when Farrell turned to walk away, the 2-time national championship winning coach responded, "Don't turn it back on me. I'm the best coach in the effing sport." And so. That, people couldn't read the lip. That was kind of caught on video, and it was played over and over, and it was a little bit of shocker when everybody was like, whoa, what did he say to this ref? And this isn't the first run-in that he's had this season. You remember earlier in the Maui I think that was in Maui, and they lost all their games, and he was, kind of ranting a little bit about how their schedule, and he's never going to play in a, 3-day tournament or something like that. And, he has his antics on the sideline and everything like that. So a lot of people have been commenting on it. And then he talked about the media, that the media always has the camera on him. And almost like the media is trying to can't. So I just wanted to get your take on all of that. On Coach Hurley, yes, he's back-to-back championship coach. So he has a little bit of room to be a little, feel a little highly of himself. But what is your take on everything that took place last week?
Okay, first off, he has 2 national championships, so you are one of the best coaches in college basketball, for sure. But going back to Maui, how he acted, what he was saying about the referees, now you were taken outside of basketball because you were getting personal, right? It wasn't even about basketball at one point when you were talking. He started to say how the refs are. It was disrespectful. Honestly, and as a coach, as a leader of the team, we talked about Red's press conferences and how he's not blaming the players. I'm not blaming the refs either. It just goes back on you, and your players see that, and then what you're saying, your players, it goes to your players, right? Being a leader of that team, it's a responsibility. Yes, you are one of the best coaches in college basketball, but how you reacted in Maui, unacceptable. Right, you took it personally, right? You guys lost those games. You lost 3 in a row or whatever it was, right? And I understand you're upset, but you go to the press conference and you leave the rest out of it, man. Hey, I didn't agree with some calls. I understand that, right? And then talk about what your team didn't do well, because those refs didn't lose all 3 games for you. Was there some calls that didn't go your way at the end? Yeah, for sure. That's basketball. That happens all the time. But for that 40 minutes, what did your team not do well that made you guys lose the game? And then what was the game that he said that he was the greatest coach in college basketball? Who were they playing against?
That was against Butler. That was last Tuesday. And the ref, he was trying to talk to the ref, and the ref was trying to walk away. I guess not give him a tech or whatever, but the ref tried to just walk away, which refs do sometimes. And that infuriated him. He said, "Don't turn your back on me." Reading lips, of course. Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best effing coach in college basketball or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, right there, his ego just came into play like crazy. Like, don't turn your back on me. Like, all right, you're a good college basketball coach, but really, who are you to even say don't turn your back on me, right? Yeah. You've been cursing my man out the whole game, right? So he's like, at this point, he's like, all right, coach, like, I'm just going to go ahead, make the call, go to the scoreboard, and then we can continue the game. But for you to say that, I don't know. It just doesn't buy well with me. As a player, I always talk stuff. Like that got me going. All right. So maybe like for him to do that, it gets him going as a coach. But the coach is totally different. Player and coach has 2 different roles. Like as a coach, especially nowadays when everything is magnified, and then for him to say that in the clip, like all the cameras are on him. Go to the clip real quick. I want to hear the clip, and then we'll talk about the clip.
I don't think it could get worse for me. I mean, you look at the free throw differential. Where is the freedom of movement? Like, we're just getting mauled. And I don't think it's because they don't, if it's because they don't like me, that's a problem, because that's like an integrity of the game issue. I just wish they would show these other coaches losing their minds at the officials in other Big East games that I'm coaching, where I look going into a timeout when I'm not talking to officials. I see the other coaches as demonstrative as I am. But, the camera, obviously, I've created this for myself. I'm not no victim.
Well, he's right there. He has created it for himself, right? But so he is. For you even saying that, you're playing victim, all right? Just to say that. But first of all, come on, man. The cameras are on you, maybe more so because you've won 2 national championships. Your team is one of the better teams in the country, right? Well, you're 4th in the Big East, so you're probably not one of the better teams in the country right now. All right, so for you even to say these type of things right now, you probably humble yourself a little bit. All right, you guys haven't been playing up to expectations. And then, look, there's going to be missed calls throughout the game. Like, these guys aren't perfect. That's like an expectation going into these games, Coach. Calls are going to be missed. right? And for you to, continue to every single game, we lose because of this, because freedom of movement. Guys are getting grabbed through cuts, going off screens, coming off screens. That's just the game. That's going to happen. And they're not calling those little plays, those little touchy. And as a coach, if I was a coach, I want you to let a lot of that stuff go anyway, right? And if you're going to call it both ways. But I want to be able to see a basketball game where they let you hoop. Don't call every single ticky-tack foul. Going back to when you were playing in the Big East, none of that stuff was called. You going down the lane, you getting one of these. And from that standpoint, the game has changed now because you don't have as much of that. All right. So for him to continually complain, game after game, it takes away a lot of his ability as a coach. Because now fans are like, man, this guy, I'm tired of hearing this guy complain, man. Yeah, let your record, your 2 national championships speak for you.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to help his case with the refs very much. And that's not really fair to the players as well. But he said at the end that he did kind of create this for himself, so he knows. Would the camera be on you if you were just sitting there kind of quiet and not saying anything? Probably not. But you're doing a lot of antics, so that's probably why the camera kind of shifts to you, because you're the one being as. But I thought that was interesting. I don't know if we really had situations like that where something's caught on video, in that instant, and you could clearly see what a coach is saying to a ref, something of that magnitude. But I want to ask you something else too, though, because this is something that I've been thinking about as well. Bronny James, he caught a lot of flack, earlier in this season. A lot of criticism when he was drafted to the number, whatever he was drafted at. His first few games were a little bit rocky, and then playing in the G League, he didn't play well. And on social media, it was literally every other post was talking bad about Bronny, was saying that he's terrible, he doesn't need to be in the league. And then you had these different shows that were just kind of clowning him. I'm like, dang, why are y'all so rough on this kid? Is it just because y'all don't like his father that much? Or why are you so it was just nonstop, almost to where, you felt bad for him. He didn't ever say anything back or go back at people or go back at the media and defend himself. He just was kind of quiet, just kind of keep getting better, everything like that. So now he has a game where he scores 31 points, has his highlight dunk, all these different things, and then it's just silence. And that to me, I'm like, okay, well, y'all had all this mouth before that y'all wanted to criticize him before and bash him into, whatever. He doesn't even belong in the G League. He doesn't belong in anything like that. And now it's just quiet. Now he hits 31 points in a G League game, and you don't have anything to say? Do you think he gets a little bit of unfair scrutiny in this day and age?
And he's going to. I mean, when you're LeBron James' son, everything is going to be critiqued, nitpicked, and we all know that they love to shout your failure, and they love to be really silent about your accomplishments and what you're doing, right? And that's what all the greats deal with it. I'm not saying Bronny James is a great, right? But he is a special talent. Like his athletic ability, his knowledge of the game, he has it. And let's go back to college. He really didn't play a lot in college. He was dealing with injuries. He was dealing with the issue that he had with his heart. So when he did get the time to play in college, he was really just getting himself back into like game shape and just feeling his way throughout, trying to get his rhythm back. When you're out for that period of time, it's hard to just jump back in and make a huge impact, unless you're like a LeBron James or guys like that who could just. I mean, those are superhuman guys right there. They their talent, their athletic ability, it just takes them to the next level. But when you're LeBron James' son, that's what you're going to deal with. And I'm sure him and LeBron have those conversations all the time. Like, look, son, they hate greatness. Right, because a lot of people they're never going to be able to get to that level, ever in anything. You know what I mean? So they're going to talk down. They're going to try to make you feel bad about yourself. And then Bronny James, in his case, he's not as talented as his dad. He's not as good as his dad, and he won't be. Right? That's just what it is. He's 6'3". He's not 6'8". He's not 275. Running like a deer, like a freight train, just going down. But he is a talented kid that, with time on the court, with more reps, he's going to continue to get better, and he will be a a backup eventually in the NBA. You know, he right now in the G League, he's getting his feet wet. He's starting to find his rhythm, but he will be a guy who could be a backup guard in the in the NBA. You know, get 8 to 10 minutes a game, right? And if he continues to improve, maybe he'll find a bigger role on a different team. But as of right now, you know, he'll continue to get those reps, continue to get better in the G League, and then eventually he'll find his way to get some time in the NBA. But real quick, E, we're gonna a quick break, and then we're gonna come right back.
Hey, this is former Syracuse basketball player Etan Thomas.
Yeah, when was that? When was the last? Did we go over the time? I know we said 10, 15.
Yeah, I didn't know.
11.
You guys will just basically come back and wrap it.
What did we do? We did third. Oh, that was the third. So we didn't do it. So we did.
Yeah.
13.
11:30, and then the last one is when?
No, we got 11:40. Yeah, we're supposed to do it.
45.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Got you.
45 seconds. So when we come back, we got 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just say see you next Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so next time I guess we break every 15 minutes. So 15, 30, and 45.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my fault.
No, I'll keep an eye on it too. I didn't know the last one though, so.
What so they play Stanford Saturday, right? Or is it tomorrow?
Wednesday, Saturday.
Wednesday, so Stanford, Cal?
Yeah.
Are you going, Paul? You're not driving, are you?
No, I'm staying here. I'm doing.
I was going to say, that's a crazy drive.
I'd rather drive than deal with the callers after the game, but.
They be going at Paulie tough.
Paulie, you hold your own, though. You hold your own.
Griff told me I got to stop fighting with people.
That makes it fun for the show, I guess.
Yeah, right.
But it's interesting that some of the callers, some of the criticisms that y'all had, I saw one clip where you were saying that they want you to be more negative. Like, you're too positive.
Yeah. I get it both ways.
You got to say some more negativity here.
On the show, people have told me they would punch me in the face because I'm too negative. So it's I can't win.
No, you won't win. If you try, you'll just keep digging yourself a deeper hole. But I don't think it's a game for you to win, Paulie. It's not. You can't win.
Yeah,
you're just playing.
You guys both killed me with that Kadari Richmond take, though.
Oh, you disagree?
Why?
He
shouldn't have played. He was showing up late.
Well, that's what we said. That's what we bet.
More, Paulie. I couldn't disagree with you more. When he was here, like every time he got into the game, he completely brought us back.
I was at every game. He would show up to like the game with bedhead just as they were going to layup lines.
But that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, I'm just saying once he got into the game during the actual
exactly.
I know nothing about the back, how he's practicing, and I will always say that. But for what I was seeing in the actual game, it wasn't even close. Like as far as who should be the point guard and what he could bring to the team and how invaluable he was on the court, I don't think it was even close.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying as far as like the inside stuff, knowing that's why with Coach Bam on the court, not even a question. But just like the off the court stuff, Paulie, we understood that, but
well, y'all know a little bit more about the inside stuff than I did because I wasn't, you're there and I don't know about that part.
But sometimes you got to find a way, man. Allen Iverson-ish stuff, you know what I mean? And that was my favorite player all time. He gonna play.
Has to run some extra laps or something. Run up in the dome for being late or something. But come game time, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Hey, I was talking about practice. You know what I do in the game? It doesn't matter if I show up.
Isn't AI though.
That's true. That is true. I give you that.
Your scent maracas smell amazing. Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain Scent Beads. Try Gain Scent Beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Hey, we appreciate everybody tuning in today. Remember, every Monday, 11 a.m., me and Etan, we're breaking down Cuse basketball and other topics in college basketball, like you heard today about Bobby Hurley. And also, we can get into the G League, NBA if we want to. We can talk about all basketball if you want. All right, we could definitely break it down. But before we go, Syracuse has the West Coast trip, all right? The West Coast trip that me and you never, ever took. And the Wednesday they play at Stanford, and then they got at Cal on Saturday. Give me your take on the West Coast trip and what Syracuse needs to do to win those two games.
Well, they got to come out there and win one at least. You know what I mean? We're in a tough situation. We're looking at possibly not making the ACC tournament, which is absolutely absurd to even say. But they can't go there 0-2. That's basically really quickly what they cannot do.
Plain and simple, you got to win a game. All right, the West Coast trip, it's not a vacation, Cuse. This is business time. You got to go there and handle your business, at least split, so you can stay out of that bottom three. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Remember, every Monday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon, we're breaking down Cuse basketball and other college basketball topics. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Right now at Matt.